Let's have a look at the props of the Effects category. Select an image and open the corresponding tab. Let's revise each prop. We'll start with Opacity. You can set it in the range from 0 to 1. Opacity sets the opacity level for an element. The values can be easily changed by pressing the arrows on the keyboard and Alt. The closer to 0 the value is, the more transparent the element is. Let's move on to Cursor. This prop lets us change the mouse cursor to be displayed when pointing over an element. For example, change the standard cursor to a pointer. Check it in preview mode. The cursor changes. Next prop is Blend Mode. This prop specifies how an element's content should blend with its direct parent background. Let's take the box element that overlaps text and images as an example. Make the box visible. Set its blend mode to multiply. This is the effect we get. We have 16 blend modes. They work differently. Some of them darken an element, others lighten it. Color it, invert colors, and so on. Now hide the box and let's move on to the next prop. Box Shadow allows you to enable shadows for an element. The values for this property can be taken from the theme. Let's see what properties the shadow value is composed of. Offset X is the horizontal offset of the shadow. Offset Y is the vertical offset of the shadow. Blur radius. The higher the number, the more blurred the shadow is. Spread radius. A positive value increases the shadow size while a negative value decreases it. All these values can be set in any unit accepted in CSS, and they can be negative. You can also change the shadow color. The value for this property can be taken from the theme. The Inset property changes the shadow from an outer shadow to an inner shadow. You can also set several different shadows. To check how the text shadow prop works, let's use a heading, because this prop works only on text. It has several values, and they are almost the same as for the box shadow. Offset X, horizontal offset. Offset Y, vertical offset. Blur radius, the radius of the blur. Color, shadow color. You can add as many text shadows as you want. So let's add one more shadow. The transition property is used when styles of an element are changed in response to some actions. Transitions make this change smoother. This effect can be illustrated with text. Change the text color to red when mousing over it. Then, set the transition value from the theme. Unlink it and have a detailed look at it. In the transition value, we can specify the property that will change. In this case, it's going to be color. Timing function is a prop that specifies the speed curve of the transition effect. Set it to ease in out from the theme. Next is duration. Now, it's set to normal. Unlink it and get 0.3 seconds. Delay specifies when the transition effect starts. Let's see how it works in the preview mode. Transition works perfectly. You can set as many values to transition as you want. The next property is transform. This applies a transformation to an element. The value can be chosen from the theme. You can also choose a transition type, and arguments which are set in specific units. For example, let's select the skew transform type. In arguments, set the skew value. The first value indicates a horizontal skew, the second one, vertical skew. Set both values to 5 degrees. You get an interesting effect. There are some other properties. The translate prop repositions an element in the horizontal and/or vertical directions. You can also find other transform types that are used less frequently. You can set several transforms for each element. For example, you can rotate, translate, and scale an element at the same time. Let's move on to the filter prop that applies visual effects to elements similar to those in Adobe Photoshop. The value contains the filter type and an argument that set the filter effect intensity. Let's have a look at filter types. The first one is URL. It takes the URL address with XML SVG filter as an argument. This is rarely used in practice. Next comes blur. It applies a blur effect to an element. The brightness filter adjusts the brightness of an element. Contrast, as the name suggests, adjusts the contrast of an element. Drop shadow applies a drop shadow effect to an element. Unlike box shadow, it applies a shadow effect to an element that has a complex shape. Let's take an icon as an example. Add an icon, make it bigger, set its size to 200 pixels. Choose the drop shadow filter and set the argument to 10 pixels, 10 pixels, 10 pixels, #333. It means that the icon shifts to 10 pixels horizontally and vertically, the blur radius is 10 pixels, and the shadow color is #333. You can see that the shadow shifts relative to the whole, but not to the container, as in the case of the box shadow. The next filter type is Grayscale. It removes colors from an image and makes it monochrome. Hue Rotate is a hue rotation on an element at a certain degree around the color circle. Invert is color inversion. Opacity sets the opacity level for the image. Saturate changes the color saturation of an element. Sepia converts an element to sepia, giving it a warmer, more yellow-brown appearance. You can set several filters at a time. Add contrast to sepia. That was an overview of the props of the effects category.